Hey there everybody, welcome to my channel. Trying to get myself situated here. My name is Maria. Happy Wednesday. So today I wanted to talk about a book that I just got done reading, and I wanted to say over the years I have reviewed a lot of books out here that have to do with trauma, treatment models, recovery, mental health diagnoses, emotional challenges, multiple personality disorder when it was called that, Dissociative Identity Disorder when it was changed to that name in 1994, DDNOS, Dissociative Disorders Not Otherwise Specified when it was called that, Other Specified Dissociative Disorders when it was called that, spectrum, just a bajillion labels. I really don't, I feel bad for doctors that have to try to figure this stuff out all the time and work with the DSM 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 revised or whatever, and try to explain it to people. But one person I have found that always can break it down and explain it in layman terms and actually tell a good story. And it almost appears like he's just sitting across from you talking to you, is Dr. Collin Ross. So I've read most of his books. Somehow I just never got around to reading, trigger warning, The Rape of Eve, the true story behind Three Faces of Eve, Chris Costner Seamore's book. Now, Dr. Collin Ross wrote this with the permission of Chris Costner Seamore, who, and some people say Sizemore. I'm really not sure. I've heard a lecture and she's been introduced as Seamore. If it's Sizemore, forgive me. Chris is the real Eve, and she wrote her own book called I'm Eve, and she came out in the 1970s and wrote her own book and did lecturing, and then she started to write another book with her doctors that didn't flesh out, and then she wrote her final book, A Mind of My Own. And so what we know right away from Chris's writing is that there were never just three persona alter aspect ego states. Her doctors, Dr. Thigpen and Dr. Klenke, did not have her best interests at heart. Although Dr. Thigpen really was involved in her life for 40 plus years, it wasn't a healthy relationship. He was medically negligent. He used her. He abused her sexually. There was tons of misconduct, negligence. He saw money when he met her. He used any diagnosis he needed back in the day to get her in the hospital and out of the hospital. He was a biological psychologist, they both were, who were really more into electric convulsive therapy, insulin treatment, or metrazole treatment, which induces seizures, or frontal lobotomies, which are pretty gruesome and horrible. With Dr. Collin Ross, who is an expert in D.I.D, MPD, explains in his book is that Chris Costner was raped by these two doctors, mostly by Dr. Thigpen. I mean, like just taken for every penny. Most likely living like under a conservatorship or guardianship because Dr. Thigpen handled her money. He was a publicist. He told her where to go. He told her who to be. He used heavy hypnosis, not just 3, 2, 1. Not just I'm going to relax your body, but hypnotic techniques and heavy repetitive interrogation that is often found in the MK Ultra programs, Bluebird, Artichoke, CIA intelligence, government programs that we know about now that are on the books, that are a public record, that were used to get information from people and to make them give the right response. So, what I love about this book is, and first of all, Dr. Collin Ross is seen as the bad boy of psychiatry because he is a truther in psych world. He had his own institute with, at one point, he worked with Dr. Richard Clough, Dr. Bennett Brown, I'm going to say Dr. Putman's, I think it's Dr. Frank Putman, and him. They all had the the Study of Trauma and Disassociation Institute, which kind of went kerplunk because so many people were suing for being overdiagnosed or mistreated, wrongly treated, and allegations were made. Whereas Dr. Collin Ross went on successfully to make his own institute, he still has that, and teach and treat in specialty clinics. He was known as more of a celebrity doctor because he worked with a lot of high profile, maybe Hollywood people. He understood the programming and he understood how to help people become more solidified, whole, fluid during their day with memory and experience and time shared without having amnesia, losing time, stigma. He really encouraged an integration where you didn't lose anybody. So I'm just going to call it a solidification of personality. Some of his trauma basic models I've never agreed with, and I think they're kind of far-fetched. But I like that he entertains that we don't know. So it could be this or it could be that. I also like that he looks at the whole person and their ancestry generationally. What was normal in their family? How did a person grow up? And what could be co-occurring with the diagnosis of DID? And often there is co-occurring conditions like depression, like anxiety, like eating disorders, like things that anything that you would see after trauma or in an anxious person, or a person that was a people pleaser, maybe. So what Dr. Collin Ross lays out in his book is a complete detail that it's a scathing book of the mistreatment of Chris Costner. Now, Bobby Costner, Chris and Don's son, was a guidance counselor. Now, he endorsed the book and said he had deep respect for Dr. Collin Ross and that most of the book he found was true, like as a son, what he would know. But he still had a good regard for Dr. Thigpen, who is dead now. He died in 1999. For all he had done for them previous to when he got cuckoo, I guess. I don't know. But I'm keeping in mind that Dr. Thigpen became her son's godfather, encouraged Chris to divorce one of her husbands, had a alleged sexual misconduct relationship with Chris, went about writing a book about her with Dr. Klecky within 2 years of meeting her, and explained to her it was part of medical case studies that they were putting together. So Chris never knew it was going to be a big film. It was going to be a big best-selling book. And he really rushed on it. These doctors made enough money to live for the rest of their life comfortably without ever practicing again from the best-selling book, Three Faces of Eve. They also made enough money off the movie. If you go, I'm going to link to all these things. There's what's called the Chris Costner papers. I've been reading them. You have to request them. You have to log in. You have to pay for them. It's well worth it. And I think that Dr. Collin Ross breaks down all of the notes between doctors, the phone calls, and an email. Then maybe later, but mostly it was phone calls, dictation, letters, notes, tape recordings, footage. I'm going to link some of the videos that are out there. So, and what I want you to take notice of, if you can be aware of, if you want to, is that when Dr. Thigpen is interviewing Eve Black, and she begins to get tired, and she just doesn't want to cooperate anymore. She says, I'm tired of all this. I just want to go get a banana split. Can we go get a banana split? Don't you want a banana split? He just gets rid of her. He says, okay, bring back Eve White now, or Jane, right? Just go away. Okay. So it turns out that one of the alter aspects that was a child would only eat banana splits. So during this time period that he is showboating and freak showing, prancing Chris around, asking her to twirl in a dress, walk away again, show the dress off, do a little dance in it. What Dr. Collin Ross says is this is like Barnum Bailey circus show where they used to bring out Siamese twins, the Elephant Man, that kind of thing, midgets, dwarfs. It's really sad. It's really sad. All Chris Costner knew about was that she was helping them for medical documentation, and they gave her $3 for her life rights, the rights to her life to tell her story. They gave her $1. This is what the doctor said. $1 for Eve White, Mrs. White, $1 for Eve Black, and $1 for Jane. And she signed the paper. When she realized they sold a story that was all wrong, when she realized they sold a story that said they cured her, and there were only 3 alter ego aspects, she sued them and settled out of court. But they all stayed kind of in touch in a way, even when she didn't want. Like he invited himself uninvited to her husband's funeral. Excuse me one second. Mailman. I don't know if you could catch it, but I had a doorbell. Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Thigpen stayed in her life well after she didn't want him in her life, but she had mixed feelings about him. He had become the all-powerful doctor, a god to her. I said in another video that thing that I think we often forget is during when we need to go back to Three Faces of Eve, because interestingly, and I don't, it's just my feeling about it, is that interestingly, Chris didn't want to come out until she realized the movie Sybil came out in the book in the 70s. And then, Sybil was all the big hoopla, 16 distinct personalities, and she's over there thinking, wait a minute, they wrote my book. I'd be thinking this. They wrote my book. They said it was only 3 personalities and they cured me, and I suffered for years still, and there were 22. I didn't get any money. I didn't get anything. I got nothing but aggravation. Not only that, her doctor talked her into having an abortion, arranged for an abortion, and then sterilized her. That's beginning to sound a lot like a guardianship conservatorship. I believe Shirley Ardell Mason was in the same situation with Dr. Cornelia Wilbur, who continued to, okay, you have your autonomy, but we're going to take care of your money. We're going to take care of your decisions, your medical decisions. You're going to live here. He moved her several times. He told her where she could go and where she could live. He became her son's godfather. He inserted himself into a role in her life that was well beyond therapist, doctor, patient. So he crossed a lot of unethical boundaries. And it's important because you see how psychiatry dealt with people that at the time, they weren't calling multiple personalities. So he was trying to get it on the books. There was a race to get it on the books. There were several observers, like Dr. Cornelia Wilbur was observing Shirley Ardell Mason, aka Sybil, around the same time through the years. Eve was, and Dr. Thigpen and Dr. Klecki knew they already had been working with a woman from 1951 onward. So there was this little bit of a race to who was going to get their papers in first. And there were believers and non-believers in the condition. In order to get her evaluated in the hospital, she would have had to, he admitted her as schizophrenic for 1 day. The treatment when she got into the hospital was electroconvulsive therapy. When she went and signed the paper for it, he said to her, he said, okay, the patient has schizophrenia and she's going to resolve at home. Who do you know who resolves at home? I'm just saying. If somebody is in the middle of decompensating with schizophrenia, they can't just go home and I'm just going to go take care of it. No. And they gave her no prescription, nothing. Okay, so then he gets her into the hospital for 2 weeks so that everybody can observe her and he can prance her around and show, look, she really does. I think she's got, they called it dual personality. They didn't call it multiple personality, dual. Before all this, all they had was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, split personality, which now would be considered DID, because if you have more than one, DID. So it's all very interesting. It's about 300 and something pages. It's a page turner. I will say I went to Amazon and they're selling it on Amazon for $629. It's like, so don't look at that. That's sort of like when Denise Matthews Vanity was selling her book for 500. Dr. Y, he's not selling it for that. I don't know. I don't know what it means, but I know that I got mine on Kindle for $9.99. So you pay the $9.99. If you have Kindle on cloud, just download it and read it. If you, I don't know if they, I think they have it in a library, but I don't know. I know that it wasn't well received by some people because he's a truther and he told the truth. They practiced techniques on Chris that were inhumane. And what I was going to say before is we often forget that women were treated like children. Women were still property of men in this era up through the 70s. And even when women got equal rights for pay and voting and everything, or jobs in the 70s started to get, it wasn't everywhere yet. And many women were still conditioned to look at their husbands as their fathers. and their doctors as gods. Men still rule the world for women and children. Now, one of the things I found interesting is when I heard her lecture, a lot of people wanted to know about her daughter. Did she really try to kill her daughter? What she often said was that she didn't know during that time period what was being made up by her husband and what was being made up by her doctor. She couldn't trust her doctor anymore. She felt like she had no choice but to just agree and say, okay, I pulled a Venetian cord off the blind and I tried to choke my 2-year-old daughter. It never made sense to her. If you read Dr. Collin Ross's book and Chris Costner's books, you see that she entertains the thought that maybe Eve Beck could have done it, but she doesn't think so. Because Eve Black kept her alive during so many traumas. And as an adult, in even more trauma, with the husband who left her in horrible situations and abused their daughter. So Chris and her daughter were abused by the very husband that you see in the movie, them talking about. The husband brought her to the doctor because the wifey wasn't behaving normal, right? Something was off with the wife. Now, what I said the other day is they go in and they edit, but it's not editing. The original film, the husband wants to discipline his wife for buying clothes and going to a bar and acting like a floozy when it's really Eve Beck. And the original scene is he calls his wife over and puts her over his knee and spanks her, and until she falls to the floor. They went in and did something to that scene to make it be he's sitting down, he calls her over. Anybody that knows videography, movie stuff, please let me know what they're doing. The original movie was he calls her over, he says, come here now. He's really mad at her. She keeps walking closer. What? And it's demure Eve White, his wife, who he has seen now as Eve Black, doing all this stuff in floozy clothes. Keeps saying, come closer, come closer, come closer. And he whacks her over his knee and spanks her on the butt. That wouldn't go over very well in the movies today. So, I just saw the movie the other day on demand. Free movie. He calls her over and he stands up and slaps her in the face. That's not what happened. So I don't know how they got that to change. Anybody that understands movies, please let me know. In editing, how they would change an entire scene like that so many years later. So there was a lot of what I noticed was the doctors talking to the husband. Well, what do you think is wrong with the wifey? The wife, her, talking to the child, talking about the child as a thing. If you go back and look at the script, after I got the papers, I went and got the script. Oh my God, the way it's written. The child, the thing, the woman. There was a private conversation I talked about the other day where Dr. Klecky and Dr. Thigpen spoke about, wouldn't it have been better if she saw something scary in the attic or had some kind of trauma or something? Okay. Turns out, like, some patients are so inconsiderate, right? She's not getting better since she's been seeing us. Okay. It turns out that Chris, at the age of 2, was witness to an infant dying. A horrible accident with a ditch where a man was being dragged out that she thought was dead because he appeared dead, and everybody thought was dead, and the rescue. As she grew older, it was one thing after another. A man being cut in half in a sawmill that her dad worked in. The whistles going off in the sawmill, and the whole town running, and there was the man cut in half. Her mother being uh, bloodied and hurt, wounded, um, when only she was in the kitchen, and it was a glass kind of accident that shattered everywhere, and um, a lot of blood. She had to go get help, and she didn't know how to. But another little girl went got help, and she realized another little girl went and got help. That was another alter. So Chris began uh, developing alter ego aspects at the age of 2, preverbal. Then, as she grew up into teen years, she had a informal, illegal marriage that was horrible. It's right up there with sex trade and sadistic and abusive. Um, she ended up with a man that was only an older man that was only going to use and abuse her. And when she finally married the man we see in the movie, um, it's a legitimate marriage. They think it's going to be okay, but he is domestically abusive to her. Um, and and culminating to kissing her grandmother goodbye, who she loved very much, in the casket. So many things happened to her, and we're left to believe just kissing her grandma goodbye made that happen. What I really love about what Dr. Collin Ross has done is he has taken the doctors to the shed and gone through every protocol in medicine, neurology, psychology, and surgical. And once a person is on a floor, on a unit, and what medication goes with what, and how to do hypnosis, and suggestive leading questions, and what's interrogating, and what is torture. And I I just wanted to say hats off to Dr. Colin Ross, because I've never given him the credit for being able to break it down for lay people to understand. Um, he, he has been seen as one of the big grand poobahs who made up multiple personality, but he actually didn't. He's trying to take it apart and find out what's causing DID, what causes some people and not others. Um, and the most important thing is that he doesn't force anyone into an integration that is one cure for all. And how to achieve that: co-consciousness, co-con running, um, living cohesively with more than one, co-consciously, sharing your day, space, and time, what some people call a fusion, what my doctor and I used to call a combo or the buddy system, is perfectly fine. Um, and then, as Chris always said, when she finally became integrated, she thought of it as one fluid self that could wake up in the day and know what she was doing and not have to worry that, am I going to get it done? Am I doing that today? Did I do what I wanted to do? How did I get taken off the track of my day? How did I end up here when I wanted to do this? Um, so it was taking her time back, her life back, and speaking her own mind. And it wasn't until she felt all the emotions of that she was ashamed and fearful of, and many ancestral um, trauma bonding kind of fears that she had with her mother, like fear of water. Um, for me, it would be, um, well, yeah, I guess my grandmother had a fear of water because her brother, my dad's mom, her brother drowned. So she had a fear of water, although she got on a boat, came to America. But I don't think I ever saw them swimming around or anything. But then you'd see some people in the family just wouldn't swim, and other people were fine with water. So I'm allergic to bees and wasps if I get stung. And one of my kids is afraid, more so, or used to be, not now, um, because uh, that child worried about, am I going to be allergic like my mother? So I think it's, what your kids see. If kids see your mom being taken away on an ambulance because they got stung by a bee, they're going to be uh, scared. It's not that somebody gives them that fear. It's not like I said, hey, be afraid of bees. It's not like my mother said, her thing was she choked on I don't know what, but she used to she would cut my food until, I mean, I'd be sitting there wondering, can I eat now? If there was meat on my plate, she'd be like, I'd be 10 years old. She'd be like, Maria, chew your food good. Maria, chew your food good. Maria, chew. I would spit it out. Confession, for many years, I chewed and spit. Unless we were at my grandparents', my father's house, where we had cloth napkins, mapinas, because you couldn't spit into a cloth napkin because they were around. But at home with my mom and my mom's mom, we had paper napkins, and I was constantly chewing and spitting. I was like, if it wasn't creamy, soupy, or whatever, I wasn't taking a chance because I was going to choke. And so there you have. I mean, that's what I'm talking about with fears we get from our family and how we adjust our behavior. Anyways, the book, The Rape of Eve, the true story of Chris Costner Sizemore, and not Chris, the Three Faces of Eve, Chris Costner Sizemore, by Dr. Collin Ross, is an excellent book. I would recommend it for anyone. And I really do feel bad for Chris, how she lived so quietly behind the scenes until she finally came out and started lecturing and being an advocate for um, mental health, and a very good advocate, because there were nuances of personality that doctors really didn't understand. And you couldn't say, well, because this happened to Chris Costner, this is what it happens to everybody. They didn't build a model on that, but they understood through her mind how she heard the others, how she saw the others. That didn't mean that everybody was going to see it that way. Maybe Dr. Cornelia Wilbur borrowed from some of that, but it was kept from the public on how we were sold a farce with her story. She had a greater story to tell, and she told it in her two books and lived out a good life. And but she went through a lot of suffering. Of Even after Dr. Thigpen died, she was haunted by him. So I'm going to post the links, and you can watch the videos and tell me if you can hear the little child voice when he insists that he's talking to Eve Black, and how powerful this must have made him feel to say, I'd like to talk to you right now. I'd like to talk to Eve Black now. Can you get Jane now? Oh, go away. Get Eve Black now. Okay, I'm done with you. Like I said, anybody that has gone through switches and splits, even if you're co-con running and you're aware of each other and you can fluidly do that, you'd have to take a break. Okay? Now, in that, what I kept hearing is a little girl voice. I didn't hear Eve Black sounding like some boisterous, floozy, assertive, reckless. Oh no, I heard a little girl, and you'll hear it too during the interview when Chris is getting tired. The body is tired. Everyone is tired. Eve Black's tired. Eve White's tired. Jane's tired. They're under hot lights. There's cameras, and he just keeps drilling for the camera. She's tired, and suddenly she sounds like a little girl to me, like a very small little girl saying, I want to I want a banana split. When you look through the alter aspect egos in Chris's personality system group, that is exactly what was there. A little girl who wanted a banana split. Not eat black. But they obeyed the doctor. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks for hanging in with me, and I'll post all the links there. It's a really good read. Thanks. Bye.